Hello. Hello, Internet. I think we're back up and running. I hope we're back up and running. And we're going to get our Shimmy Sham on because we've got a lot to cover and we haven't covered it yet. And now the Internet's trying to stop us. So, with that in mind, the board game. Chris, do you back it?
No, and I really agonized over this decision. I love social deduction games. I love hidden role games. I read the rule book for this, and I don't know. I just guess I had. I don't know. I guess it just didn't make the cut, and I kind of might regret it already. I'm not sure. I was going to end up with non-backers remorse or backers remorse depending on what I did. And I realized, so I decided, look, it needs a good few players to play it. My main groups don't play it. Wouldn't play this kind of game. So, yeah, I didn't back it. You?
Nope, I did not back it either. For, I guess, possibly a lot of the reasons you said. I also just kind of looked at it and I found the board and the components kind of uninspiring.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair enough.
You know,
and I'm not particularly married to the IP myself.
I like the IP well enough, but I also, yeah, I mean, I like the IP better, I think, as a sort of the concept of. I find the fact that some of the players are the thing, to be the very thing that kind of undermines the horror element for me in this, right? Like, it's kind of like how the Dead by Daylight game is not scary because someone's playing the monster.
I don't agree with that. You see,
fair enough.
I think giving a human intelligence to the monster actually makes it more scary than a bunch of ones and zeros.
I mean, I can see that perspective. I suppose a lot of it depends actually on whether you can talk to someone, right? Because like,
are you specifically saying if it's your friend who's the monster?
Yeah, right. Like if it's
right, okay, yeah,
or,
I can see that.
Like if you can, like if I'm on Discord with Michael and he's playing the monster, I'm not scared, right?
Sure.
Take him off the Discord, I might be scared, but in this case we're all sat. So and it's not that I don't like that. I love hidden traitor mechanics and everything like that. It's just for me it undermines the horror theme, right?
Sure. I mean, anytime I played Dead by Daylight, I played it with 3 other people and against a stranger. So we were all talking and we were all terrified of an unknown human intelligence, and that's scary.
That's See, I can totally get that. I think that would be legitimately very scary. But I've not played a lot of Dead by Daylight, and I've only ever played it with someone I know as the monster.
Yeah, no, okay, fair enough, yeah. But you're right, this would have that problem because, it is all social deduction games have that problem. But, I mean, board games aren't going to be scary, are they? They're not. Scary is a heck of a word for a board game.
Yeah, it's always been a sort of I mean, they can be thrilling, and they can be exciting, and they can be very, very, very tense, but they're never really going to, like, ooh, gotcha,
Exactly. Okay, moving
on. The last thing is not. That's not how links work. Come on, me.
Okay. Travel shoes.
Oh, this is just the rule books. They hadn't actually launched this. Okay, the press release even. It's 7th Citadel. Y'all saw it. So this came and went in the time since our last stream. And did you back it?
Of course I didn't back it. I still have about 8 curses left of 7. Yeah, I backed it.
I
backed it
definitely
day one.
Not even scratched the surface of the 7th Continent content I have, and I still backed this anyway. There's a lot of cool stuff in this version of the game.
It looks really cool.
It looks really cool, and it makes it, I think, somewhat different to 7th Continent. Now, I'd love to be able to say that the content here offers a substantially different experience. I think it is sort of going to be maybe even longer and more involved than the 7th Continent. Because
you've got a campaign now, as opposed to curses,
exactly,
right?
Because there's a link between the adventures. So I'd love to be able to say, well, then when I want to play a one-off sort of experience like this, I can just do 7th Continent. And when I want to do a longer, sort of more in-depth thing with people, I can do this. But to be honest, that feels kind of like a sort of a moot point because the seventh continent's so long anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think it seems different enough as well. It looks like it's you have individual player decks, I know now, as opposed to a common deck. And I know you can modify those. It has that campaign aspect. I don't know if it's quote unquote legacy style, but definitely a campaign with an evolving world, and you're changing stuff around, exploring the map. It looks like a good evolution in my opinion. It looks different enough. I've played all the base curses in Seven Continents, so I got a bit of time now to play the expansions, and I'll be ready for this.
What you've got is this map that has sleeves in it, and as you go and explore locations on the map, like the map represents sort of your last known understanding of the world, and as you go to explore these locations, you'll unlock cards to slot into the map that will change it, and you can also sort of gather information. Yeah, this was in one of their updates.
Okay, good.
So you can slot it, and so anyway, it looks very, very cool. But yeah, so it's different enough. It just means I've now got a time limit on how long I've got to go, and and you've got down here these sort of different. The combat system's a bit different, and there's more. You've got this level tech tree as well as you sort of unlock stuff and level up, and
yeah, they've added plenty.
These locations you can explore. So there's tons and tons of stuff here. So now I just need to make sure I get Seventh Continent to the table a whole bunch of times,
Ren says he thinks this is changing. This new one's a bit too grimdark and too combat focused. Definitely, I can see what you're talking about with the combat focus. Maybe, I mean, speculation obviously based on what they presented us with, but I can see why you might be concerned about that.
Mark says you can buy the Seventh Continent on eBay for £50. Well, is that the retail edition, or is that the collector's edition? I mean, I know that I think they probably sold a lot of copies of Seventh Continent that then just sat around not getting played. I suspect some people didn't quite realize just quite
what they were getting into.
What they were getting into, quite how big an undertaking it is. So I wouldn't be surprised if you can get a copy of the Seventh Continent, pick it up relative, like the collector's edition even.
You can get Seventh Continent Collector's Edition late pledge apparently on the Serious Pulp website for €77 right now.
Maybe that I mean I don't know how acquirable Seventh Continent is. I know that you can get.
Oh no, that's Seventh Citadel. Sorry, my bad. Ignore me.
Mark says mostly eBay. All right, moving on. We've got to get to the actual stuff, and we've got to do it quick because we got time limit on this stream.
We're on a schedule.
Got a schedule.
So into the meat and potatoes of this stream. Things currently on Kickstarter. Some for a while, some really not for very long at all. So
yeah. So this is Project L Finesse, which has 25 hours left to go. So I backed the original campaign of this, so I'm in a good position to talk about it. What?
And I spoke to somebody last year's Essen about it, but didn't have time to demo it because we were very busy. But I do like the look of it.
So essentially, you can see here on the little video, you can see these black boards here with white outlines. I mean, it should be fairly obvious from this picture what you're doing. You've got Tetris pieces. The pieces are of different categories. I mean, the fact that they put them all into a big pile right here is absolutely savage. But you've got like level 1 pieces, which are the tiny little pieces, and it goes up to like level 4 pieces. And on your turn, you get basically 3 actions where you can put pieces into puzzles that you have in front of you. You can pick up puzzles from the central market and put them in front of you, or you can upgrade your pieces to better pieces. When you complete a puzzle, you will score points for completing it, and you will also unlock a reward, which is probably more pieces or the right to upgrade a piece or something like that. And you get, every round, you get 1 master action, which allows you to slot a piece in each puzzle you have. So part of the puzzle, or part of the conundrum to solving the game is figuring out the most optimal way to put the pieces in the puzzles and have enough pieces to sort of solve multiple puzzles at the same time. I've played the version I've got, which is the all-in version from the original campaign, probably about 4 or 5 times now. I feel as though I like it more than I should because it's definitely competitive solitaire. You're really just solving your own puzzles. The only player interaction is you took the puzzle I was looking at, and it's so minimal. It's even less minimal than you would expect that to be. So it's really just it's short. It's short. The solo mode's quite good fun too. I mean, it's basically the same thing. Like you just compare your score to an AI's score. In this solo mode, there's a grid of 9 puzzles actually, and the AI is sort of taking puzzles out of that grid and scoring points for them while you're kind of racing to keep up with it, essentially. But it's not all that expensive. I think, well, I mean, it's 45 actually, 49 euros, 45 pounds here it says, which gets you the base game plus the Finesse expansion. I don't know if that. Oh, yeah, I don't know if that comes with the little Ghost Pieces expansion they did in
No,
the
it
original.
doesn't. You have to pay £58 for that next tier up.
64 euros. The Ghost Piece expansion is quite fun. That adds this thing called a Ghost Piece, which is essentially a level 5 piece that you can only unlock by specific means, and then the Ghost Piece unlocks a new action called the Ghost Action, where you can trade the Ghost Piece in for a number of pieces of a lesser quality that you could fit inside the Ghost Piece, and then immediately slot them into your puzzles. So it's just kind of this sort of like little bonus thing you can do. Like, I think I as a sort of 20 to 30 minute filler game, I like it. I would not want to play it with more than 3 people tops, even though it goes up to 6. I think with 3 people, it would kind of lag a bit. You can do some thinking between turns, but not a massive amount, so that I think it'd probably suffer from downtime. But for what it's worth, every time I've been sitting doing the puzzle and playing it head-to-head 2-player, which is all I can do at the moment, it's been a very compelling puzzle. So
Hmm.
I've backed Finesse. It's not, and seeing as I already have the first part, it's not really a big investment for me now.
Yeah.
Investing 65 euros or 64 euros to get the whole thing, I don't know really. I do think the base game probably wants a little bit more coming to it, like the Ghost Pieces of the Finesse expansion. But I also think that I don't know if 60 quid seems like a lot of money for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I was very excited by the look of this game when I saw Essen. You told me you had it coming, and then subsequently told me you quite liked it, and I was kind of all. And when I heard it was coming back, I was very eager to get it, and it's kind of unfortunately just fallen at a time now where I've got a lot of stuff I want to back right now. I've also got a lot of other expenses right now. New consoles are coming out, new graphics cards are coming out, and Christmas is coming. And although compared to all those costs, £58 is not a huge amount, I got to cut where I can, and this just does not excite me enough. If this came out at a different time of year, I would definitely back this, but at this time, I'm afraid no.
I mean, it's a very pleasing item. I can confirm that much. The actual construction of it and everything is really, really nice. Like Brains on Game says, the pieces are great. The game is sturdy and well designed, which is the most sort of backhanded compliment I've ever heard, because that they don't say that the game is good. It's sturdy and well designed. That's a bit like when you don't laugh at a joke and go, "Oh yes, that's very clever. How funny." You know. So, but for what it's, I think if you're into this kind of sort of abstract puzzle, and you're the kind of person that likes to sort of sit opposite their game partner and just kind of appreciate each other's company in silence, then this is probably for you. And like I said, I have managed to get it to the table a bunch of times. It's a compelling filler, but I don't know if it's worth the money. But it is a pleasing object as well. So I guess that's up to you to decide. Moving on.
Hey, well, let me just quickly ask you a few questions to make sure we've covered all the stuff. So it's got, what, 25 hours left, you said?
25 hours left to back this one. Epic.
And who's the publisher?
Board Cubator, who've done nothing else as far as... Oh, I think they had a few other games, actually.
And did the first Kickstarter deliver on time, more or less?
I think it was about 4 or 5 months late. So,
Okay.
by Kickstarter
So on time.
On time, yeah.
And who's the designer, did you say?
I don't know, actually, who the designer of this one is, which is a dreadful oversight on my part.
That's okay. That's why I'm looking at our list to make sure we can give this information out.
It's I believe it is. So I mean, Board Cubator, who are the creators of this project, are. I think this is sort of their main thing. They've got another game called Space Race. That's right.
It's got 3 designers who haven't done anything else, it seems.
Is it Michael, Marek, and Jan?
Yeah.
Right, they are listed on the collaborators.
Adam
section
Spannell,
here.
and only one of them, only Jan has any previous game design. He's designed something called Space Race, the card game, which I've never heard of, unfortunately.
Mark says, seems like a game for family. Yeah,
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean,
Um,
sure. If
and it
if
plays.
you're not good at playing head to head or competitive, like super competitive games, the
Oh,
arcades.
my dad would enjoy it for that reason. It's one of the reasons I would quite liked it. It plays 1 to 5. It says 20 to 40 minutes. And
I
yeah, it's quite. So yeah, I think you're right. It probably would be quite good for family.
I do
Um,
believe with the Ghost Pieces expansion, it goes up to 6. Yeah, but
oh yes, it does. You're right. It does.
I wouldn't want to play it
Okay.
more than 3, really. I mean, I've only played it with 2 on my own, so I don't know for sure, but I just feel like on your turns are very quick, um, and then there is some thinking time, like I said, but not
We've
enough,
we
I think, to get you through 5 people's turns.
we have hereby covered all the list of things we want to cover in each of them.
Very good. Moving on to the next thing. I believe this is one that you're going to talk about.
Is it?
Oh,
Oh
actually, I
dear.
think this is both of us. For
Oh, for
Sale
sale.
Autorama.
This will be a very quick one.
Yeah.
For Sale is a game I had never played, but I'd heard of until lockdown, in which case I ended up playing it on Board Game Arena because it happens to be up there. I was very pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it for such a simple game, which is essentially just 2 rounds of bidding, and bidding we bid with money for cards, so you can bid with those cards for other cards. Um, it takes 9 minutes to play on PGA, and that is a fact. It takes 9 minutes to play a 5-player game of this on PGA. So it's a wonderful little filler game, which I was very surprised at how much I enjoyed. However, I don't think it's not one that needs to be on my shelf. I'll play it on BGA whenever I am on BGA, but I don't think I'll be. How much does this even cost first?
Well, I was going to ask that actually because I've played For Sale one time, long before lockdown. This is Full House, which gets you For Sale Griffin Bookshelf Edition, and the Advisor's expansion is £23 or $29.
Yeah, and then Autorama is just basically a retheming of For Sale, where you're buying and selling in cars instead of property.
Is it really just a retheming?
Apparently, Autorama is basically just a retheming, but it includes the expansion. It's like integrated into it.
Interesting. So you can get just that for the same price. I don't know if there's a level that gets you both.
There is, but they're based. There's no reason to have both if it's just the theme.
That's what I was thinking. Exactly right. It's just
I mean,
a thematic change. So
there is if you're a completionist, or it's the sort of thing I might do. But yeah, it's just not. It's not like a deep enough game for me to really throw Kickstarter money into.
It is
I liked it.
It is. I played the original. I don't think we had the Advisor's expansion. That's a new thing, I think.
That's the new thing. That's what this is basically. This is for Autorama and the expansion.
But yeah, I thought it was. It was a fun filler game. It's an auction game. The auctioning was solid. It was tight. It's short. It's easy. It's probably about 15-20 minutes to play.
Yeah.
It's a good pub game if you like auctioning mechanics. If you don't like auctioning, forget about it because that's all there is to it.
Yeah, but it's auctioning the game, but it's done really well. Plays really quickly. I would actually highly recommend, if you like auctioning games and need a filler game, go out and buy it in retail. I don't see any particular reason to recommend backing the Kickstarter though.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think that the original copy is actually really hard to find.
It is, but it's going to be easy to find after this, presumably.
Presumably, yeah. I don't think there's any compelling reason to back it on Kickstarter now, other than you decide you already know you want it, and you don't want to have to think about it in the future, or you want to help out the publishers. Although it is Eagle Griffin Games, isn't it? So I don't think they're exactly... Yeah, it's Eagle Griffin Games, so they're not exactly a small-time independent publisher who needs your help now.
Exactly.
But I like it a lot. I was thinking about backing it actually.
It crossed my mind, but I as the reasons I discussed, I'm not going to bother.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking, I mean, I've got the thing is as well. I've got QE, which is another bidding game that I've got and I really, really like. And I don't have for sale, and I don't know if I need both. Either.
Yeah. But it's got about 45 hours left. Is that what it was?
43 hours to go.
It's by Eagle Gryphon. They, generally speaking, are pretty good at delivering on time, as in within 4 or 5 months of when they're supposed to. So you're in safe hands, I think, if you do back it. It plays up to, how many does it play up to? It plays 3 to 6 in 30 minutes, apparently.
30 plus minutes seems like, I don't know if that's what the Advisors expansion brought in, because I would have said it was 20.
Like it takes, like I said, with Board Game Arena obviously speeding up the dealing of cards, etc. It takes quite literally 8 or 9 minutes. I've timed it multiple times. It's ridiculously quick.
That's what I was gonna say, like 20 minutes in real life, right?
And then yes, you can pledge for just the expansion, and the original game, just the Autorama rebranding, which includes the expansion, or you can get everything, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, I think it's like a question of, do you like houses or do you like cars more, right? As a theme.
Yeah.
Ain't no other reason I can. I don't know if the Advisors on the cars are. Anyway. But,
You're right, Mark. It is good to have a 6-player game. I say that before this year. I regularly played in a 6-player group, and yeah, it's often that number is often limiting. So having a 6-player filler is a good thing.
And QE, the game I just mentioned, only goes up to 5. But also, I would say that Eagle Gryphon games have never been hard. They basically never do Kickstarter exclusives, and they're never hard to find after the fact either.
Correct.
So, you know, if you're on the if you're on the fence about it, there's, I don't think, any pressure to get it now, except that, you know, you'll have to wait until I guess the Kickstarter starts delivering in September next year. But you'd have to wait anyway. So, okay, next.
Next is
Endless Winter. I know nothing about this. Tell me about it.
Okay. It is a board game that's about an endless winter. So it's about like 10,000 BC, right? 10,000 BC in North America. Basically it's a competitive game where you are trying to survive the harsh endless winter and get the most points by doing so, because whoever has the most points, obviously, at the end of the winter is going to magically survive somehow, because that's how it worked back in 10,000 BC. This game uses worker placement and deck building mechanics, which are two of, if not my two favorite mechanics. And it has the cards that you in your deck are also multi-purpose. Not quite in the same way that might initially flare up in your mind, but I do like multi-purpose cards. You can play the cards for immediate effects, or you can also keep them for the end round phase, where they'll bestow other benefits as well as contributing towards who becomes first player in the next round. So not multi-purpose in the same way like something like Bruges, but they still are multi-purpose to a certain extent. The worker placement works slightly. Slightly differently insofar as you place them on a column, and then you basically get to do all the actions in that column. There's 3 actions per column. It's basically just worker placement. That's not really much of a difference. It's just that each space is actually 3 spaces. That's that you're stretching to call that an innovation on worker placement. However, I really like the look of this because it reminds me a lot of something like Stone Age or dare I say Netatanka, but with that with deck building thrown into it as well, and it just looks like, I often talk about I want games to do something new. What's the reason for me to back this? Why is it new? What's it doing differently to anything else? This doesn't do anything particularly new. It hasn't got like a new exciting mechanic, but it is a blending of things I like in a way that I don't remember seeing before necessarily. I'm sure they do exist, right? But it the blending of multi-purpose cards, deck building, and worker placement all together makes me pipe up. And it looks, and I think therefore it might be worth a back. I have not made my mind up yet. There are some playthrough videos that I would like to watch first. There's also a lot of expansions already, which concerns me a little bit. I'm never a big fan of games launched on Kickstarter already with lots and lots of expansions. But I think...
Oh, neoprene mat!
Yeah, well, quite. And it costs... I think there's a... Am I right in thinking there's like a miniatures version and non-miniatures version, or am I totally making that up?
I think you're making that up. There is a basic version, which is about 46 quid or 50 euros. Then there's the... And that concludes the deluxe edition of the game. And there's what's called the Shaman edition, which is 69 quid or 76 euros or $90, and that comes with some of the expansions. And
Right.
then you can get the Chief edition, which is 101 euros, 92 pounds, or $120, which comes with the other one came with the expansions, and the Chief version comes with the expansions plus the playmat plus resin component upgrade.
So basically, Shaman is gameplay all in, and Chief is gameplay all in plus quality of life improvements.
Yeah, I wouldn't know it goes so far. Plus deluxe component improvements.
Well, that's what I meant by quality of life. Deluxe, then, yeah, better word for it. But yeah, so you're basically just nomadic hunter gatherers, and you're trying to be the best to try to get the most points. Whilst you're hunting, I know you're hunting down mammoths. You're improving your not homestead, your village, tribe, whatever you want to call it. But the blending of mechanics is definitely what interests me. Like I said, the cards can be used at the start of the round for instant benefits, or they can be held back for the end, where they both contribute to first player for next round and also bestow other benefits. I think you place 3 workers each round. As I said, they do each worker space actually is 3 worker spaces. I suppose the thing I hadn't mentioned about that is that you have to do them top to bottom, right? So you can't so even though you're selecting those 3 spaces, but the order in which you do them is fixed. So it is, I suppose, it is a bit of a difference to just saying it's 1 space. It is a little bit you might end up not being able to do the first action because you need the third action to prepare yourself for the first action if you haven't planned correctly. So it is a slight little wrinkle in the worker placement, the usual worker placement deal. I think it doesn't seem to play very long. So you only play for 4 rounds. It says there is a scripted tabletop simulator version coming as well, and Paul Grogan has done a tutorial and playthrough. So there's a lot of stuff there to check out if the initial elevator pitch has grabbed your interest like it did mine. What about you, Mike?
Well,
based on what I said,
like what I've seen here. I like. It's reassuring that Paul worked on the rulebook, although I've seen rulebooks that he worked on that were. I mean, this is not a slight against Paul. This is a point that even with the greatest of help, sometimes publishers can still mess up. But I've seen rulebooks he's worked on that have still not been good. But I like that he was involved in it. I find that generally reassuring. And I like that I don't know about the designer. I don't recognize his name at all, but I noticed that the development and expansions are by Johnny Pack, who worked on Coloma and Sierra West. He did a game called... Coloma is a reiteration of Hangtown, which was a game he did that I really, really liked. So he's had some experience, so I find that somewhat reassuring. I'm extremely intrigued by this. I will definitely be maybe even looking to get a game in of it and see if I want to back it because I like what I've seen.
Yeah. Actually, it's got 19 days left. I'm sure we can arrange. I'm sure 2 of us.
Game, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we can get together.
It's on TTS because otherwise I could stream it, but we can't stream TTS because it's terrible.
Every so often we play games away from the public. This will have to be one of those times. Until we fix Tabletop Simulator fixes its streaming hurdles.
Exactly right.
Cool. So I'm excited by this one. We can find out. It may suffer it may end up suffering from the time of year thing. Well, all the current expenses. So I'm on the fence at the moment. This would probably be, again, this would be a back if it was another time of the year, I think, and it's going to be, we'll see. Check back next Kickstarter commentary and find out if I did back it. But yeah, definitely a nice combination of mechanics I'm excited by.
And the artist is Yoma as well, right? Who's known for the Shem Phillips games. Or isn't he the same artist?
Shem Phillips games.
Yeah, the Carfield games. Viz Council.
What games?
Architects of the West Kingdom.
Renegades, Renegade Games. Architects and
it's Garfield Games.
It's not Renegade. God, that shows how bad I am.
Well, I spoiled.
Yes, you're right. Shem Phillips.
Whee.
Garfield Games. You're quite right. Yeah, you know what? I did think the art looked exactly like Architects, and I didn't want to say it because, well, yeah, I don't know why I didn't want to say it, but it did. I thought maybe I was going mad, but I really thought that it would look like it looks even more like Vikings and Raiders. That's what it really reminds me of. I suppose because aesthetically speaking, hunter-gatherer nomads. In their animal
North
skins
Sea
are closer.
Trilogy as well, right? The other set he did. And they've all used the same artist. All right.
Plays
I know.
1 to 4, 15 to 90 minutes, FYI, and it's got 19 days left. Sorry, moving on.
Moving on. This one's only got 6 hours left.
Yes, this is a big one.
What's funny about this is I heard a lot of positive things about this from people I know and whose opinions I respected. So I basically just backed it and then thought nothing further about it. But Chris looked into it, fortunately, so he can tell us about it. So Chris, have I made a good choice? We've got 6 hours to decide.
I'm very disappointed to say you have made a good choice, I think. Because I was blissfully ignorant of how this game was. And it fell upon me to look into it for this video. And I actually messaged Mike last night from work and said to him, "Oh no, I wish I didn't have to look into this because I was planning on ignoring this game. It actually looks quite good." Now I think I have to back it. Which is pretty kind of reasonably high praise, I suppose. The fact that I didn't want to like it, and I think I do. I haven't played it, bear in mind. It's by Adam Kopinski, of course, designer of Nemesis, who does who clearly doesn't like me because when we played with him, he tried to kill me for the entire game. So I might not back it out of pure spite, but but no. Okay, so this is based on a video game by the same creators of This War of Mine. I have played This War of Mine, both the board game and the video game. I have not played Frostpunk, the video game, but I have watched a 2-hour live stream of the start of the game. It is basically a base and space/city management game. It is it's purely base city management. There's no combat. There's no kind of external threats apart from the harsh winter. And it's just about keeping your people alive. Now, the thing I find really intriguing about it is where This War of Mine, interestingly enough, kind of failed for me personally, both the video game and the board game, was making me care about the ethics of the moral decisions I was making. And this, I'm possibly slightly unusual in this because I actually found that the fact that they were saying this is Lucas and he likes drinking coffee and trying to make me understand this person, this very specific person, made the moral decisions fall flatter for me because I felt that they weren't characterized particularly well at all. It's just a face and a name and an addiction. It's not enough for me to care about a person, but you've tried to make me care about this specific person, and both the video game and the board game fail in that sense, in my opinion. I think I'm quite in a minority in that sense, but I never found the decisions harrowing or difficult in either. In this one, however, for some reason, because it's a more macro level and you're more thinking of it as a community, I actually find the decisions seem to weigh more on you because you're actually enacting laws and stuff. That's one of the most interesting things. You can enact child labor laws. You can do emergency 24-hour shifts. You can pad the food out with sawdust to make it last longer, but also it's going to cause cause upset. You have to balance doing what's necessary to survive with keeping morale up and preventing essentially a violent uprising against you. You're basically having to draw that line between fascism and socialism, essentially. You're basically having to govern a city in an incredibly difficult situation, and that, for me, on that because that macro level creates really interesting decisions that I do care about. And that's only one aspect of the game. That's only the law creating and the choice making. Apart from that, you've got an entire economy essentially to manage, of coal and keeping the power up, building technologies. You have to look after the sick. It's a very, very intense and detailed city management game, and they seem to have translated that really, really well into the board game form. Having said that, I haven't played it. Take everything I've said with a massive pinch of salt, but it looks really good, and I do not like this kind of game in video game form, just pure base management. But in board game form, I think they're really, really compelling. I'm very excited to back this and try it.
Hey, I made a good impulsive choice retroactively.
And it even has a fun little mechanic where you put coal into the generator, and it's like a dice tower thing. And if they fall out, it represents the damage sustained by the generator.
Oh dear, that's fun.
But yeah, I talked mostly about the lawmaking and stuff, which is only one aspect of the game, but it's the aspect that really excites me.
Mark says, "Have you gone all in?" I don't know where I went. I'm literally checking my Kickstarter profile now. What did I pledge at? What level did I pledge at? It says here I pledged to the deluxe pledge, but I think they might have added an additional pledge since I actually grabbed it, because there's a core pledge, there's a deluxe pledge, now there's a gameplay all-in pledge. Good lord. And then there's a collector's edition all-in pledge, which I don't think I can justify because it's 250 euros. I mean, the gameplay all-in is super expensive as well. It's
still 100 quid. Still 80 quid cheaper, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or 70.
What do you get for the extra 80 quid?
A New London poster. That's the name of the city, because you've all abandoned London, so the city's called New London. Edge of Kinship miniature.
Well, it says a huge statue and a large poster is what you get.
Forget it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get the Riley Rising expansion for Cthulhu Death May Die either, because there's got to be a line, guys.
Yeah, man. In my excitement, I forgot to mention some very important things. It is a cooperative game for 1 to 4 players, I believe. And obviously, you're going to have, like all cooperative games, you're going to have random events happen, and the weather's a huge aspect of this game. And when you make decisions, such as, like, I don't know, let's say you allow child labor, that's going to cause a card to go into your future deck, and then you might face the repercussions of that later. It's heavily draws on, as I said, ethics and moral choices, which is a topic I find very interesting. And something which I was very pleased by, which is definitely worth mentioning, is these kinds of games, the one problem with them often, and I think this War of Mine does suffer from it to a certain extent, is basically a solitaire game that you're playing with multiple people. And that's why this War of Mine board game only really works, in my opinion, with 2 players. More than that, I played it with 5, I think, first at Ben's house, and I really didn't enjoy it. I actually just was like, I don't like this game, and then ended up discovering with 2 players I do like it.
Yeah, I had a similar reaction to this War of Mine.
So what this game does is you have different roles. Someone is in charge of social care, health care, the generator, and resources advisor. So I assume that means it is indeed 1 to 4 players. Now I don't know to what extent they have separated those roles, like to what extent I'm making decisions independent of you, without maybe even knowing certain things that until it's too late. And then I know for worker distribution and stuff, where you're sending the workers to gather resources and stuff, I think you all do it together. But there are at least some decisions that you're making independently of the other players, which I think is super, super important. And I hope they take that to its next logical step, where it might even create some tension between, even though you're cooperative, might even create some tension between the distribution of resources and I want child labor because we need more resources, and you're the social guy, and you want to care. I hope they take it to that in my opinion next logical step, because that would be brilliant. That would, I think, really elevate this game, in my opinion. But even if it doesn't, it's still good that they have 4 independent roles.
Well then, sounds like this one is a back from us. Cool. Moving on. Dun dun.
What's next? Next is
Yedo Deluxe Master Edition. 9 days to go. It's back on Kickstarter with a reprint. This was a campaign that ran some time ago, an unknown amount of time ago. But Yedo is an old, I say old game. I don't think it's that old. Was it like 2012? I can find out. I have the power. The Yedo was 2012.
Wow.
Yeah. So in Yedo, you are all clans in Japan, and you are working for the Shogun. And I say you're working for the Shogun. You're not really. You're operating under the rule of the Shogun, and he's running the town of Yedo, and you're all trying to eke out power and bring it into your clan. The game is a number of rounds. I think the original game is 11 rounds. The master set is flexible, but in a round, you'll do a little sort of bidding on some actions. So you bid on actions, and you can get cheaper version. It's a worker placement game, and you can you've got a bunch of workers. You're going to put them out on a board to sort of take different actions and accrue resources, and you're going to be amassing different resources for your clan. The resources are not so much like your traditional sort of resources, but they're in fact weapons, annexes, which are rooms. You can also accrue geishas, and there's something else as well. But once you get these things, they kind of just unlock. They're not spent again. So you've got these things, and the purpose of unlocking these things is to complete mission cards, which are kind of the heart of the game. So you'll get these mission cards into your hand. You can have 4 at a time, and then you can complete the mission actions using the worker placement. You complete the mission cards to score points and stuff like that, and all of them are bad. So you're always doing something bad. You're either robbing someone or assassinating someone, or I don't know, kidnapping someone because you're a clan of evil ninja. I don't know, but you can so when you do the worker placement as well, it's sort of like each person places a worker, and then there's a phase afterwards where everyone picks a worker up and decides one thing to do with them. And when you pick the worker up, you can do one of 2 things or 3 things if you're playing with the characters expansion. But you pick them up and you either activate the district they're in for a specific action in that district, or you use them to complete a mission that takes place in that district, a mission card from your hand. And there's going to be and if you're playing with the characters expansion, you can also just pick them back up to take a character, which is quite nice if someone has lost track of if the thing they wanted to do is no longer available for whatever reason. So I actually backed the original campaign for this, and I received it recently. It's almost like they launched this second campaign in line with fulfillment to capitalize on the hype.
No one does that.
But it's by Board and Dice, who are well known. They're a well known publisher in the industry. They've had a lot of They've had a lot of successful Kickstarters, and they've published a lot of games outside of Kickstarter as well. So, you can get various degrees of deluxe with this deluxe set, but I've never played the original set actually. So I picked up the deluxe set because I was interested in the game and I wanted to try it out. It seemed to have a lot of stuff I would like. There's a sort of a mini bidding round at the start as well, where you can acquire the same actions you can acquire in the districts, but for cheaper. But maybe not, based on how much you wind up having to pay for it with other people. But there's also better versions of actions in that as well. Like some of the districts will let you pick up a card, but if you bid on the right to get a card, then you can draw 3 and choose the one you want, which is actually super important. There's actually quite a lot of decks of cards in the game, and they all allow you to do different things, and they're all valuable resources. The mission cards are the most important, but there's these action cards, and they're all really, really good. And you can pick up an action card as a action on the board, but when you do that, you just top deck, and you might not get one that you really want. There's also, oh god, what are they called? Bonus cards, I think, which give you endgame scoring but benefits as well. And you can pick up one of those, or you can bid for the right to do it at the start of the round and then draw 3 and keep 1, and that's really important. Then there's all these modules you can insert, which includes the specialist module, which gives you the ability to acquire workers that have special abilities, and also the tea house module. That's the one I was talking about with the characters, where you can get these special characters, and they'll activate in a round and give you a special ability in that round. You got the clan powers module as well, which is like an asymmetrical power for the whole game. You've also got... Dun, 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 what am I thinking of? There was something else. What was it? It'll come to me, maybe. Anyway, oh, you got this patrol guy that walks around the middle of the board and shuts down districts. But I think my first impression of the game, learning it, was essentially that I think it'd be better with more than 2. It's pretty fiddly in places, but I also thought that my opponent's clan power was completely broken. But having said that, we came within 1 point of each other, so maybe it wasn't. We took quite different paths to victory. There's a fun mechanic where you've got these, you can see here just about the 4 mission decks, green, yellow, red, and black, of escalating difficulty. So the black missions are really, really hard to complete, but they're worth the most points. And in the black deck, there's also one special mission called Kill the Shogun, which is nigh on impossible. But if you do it, you get a ton of points, and you end the game at the end of the round. So it's kind of like, surprise, guys, you've now got a severe time limit to get it done. And I actually managed to pull that off, even though I was the one that lost the game by a point. So that was really interesting that we came so close, and we had slightly different paths to victory, and I ended the game sort of 1 turn. I had the option to do that, although I did probably get quite lucky in order to pull that off. I'm definitely intrigued to try it again. Oh yeah, this is the other thing I was going to mention. All the decks of the bonus card deck is the same every time, but in the Deluxe Master Edition, I don't know if this is true for the original printing, but you get a ton of sort of card sets. So you'll make up, for example, the green mission card deck from 2 out of maybe like 6 available mission card sets, and that exists. So like you just you can use different action cards and different mission cards in every game, and just choose which sets you want to combine in order to sort of create this different experience. And I think some are more vicious and some are more player interaction-y. I haven't had a chance to go through them all because there's tons of them. So it's supremely modular. So if you're looking to get your money's worth in terms of gameplay and replayability, it's definitely here. I thought the deluxe components were fine. I think that the workers are really, really nice. The screen printed workers that I got with it were really cool. But again, like I think it's a very sort of thinky, sort of management worker placement game. If you're not into that, it's probably not something that you're going to be into. But it's definitely got pretty tight worker placement situations, and you're going to be very annoyed when someone takes your spot. Which, but then there are ways to sort of deal with that and ways to get around it. And, there's actions as well that let you peek into all the decks of cards and then stack the deck in your favor, but then you have to make sure you get the card that you wanted and things like that. So it's kind of just like planning, which I found quite compelling. Like I said, we both, me and Ninja both enjoyed it, but I don't know if that's not your thing, it's not for you. But if you're into that, then it's definitely worth a look.
I'm interested. You have piqued my interest, but I don't know yet.
The theme as well. There's some nice attention to theme as well. The mission cards all have a little story and a special name on. They didn't have to do that, but they did, and it's quite fun, And you've got these like sort of little stories like kidnap the shogun's daughter, and you'll need special equipment for that. And sort of or like you've got to go into the. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely of its historical period. Like a lot of the missions are pretty rough, like that we had anyway. Like kill this geisha because she's been disrespecting the clan.
Oh wow!
It's like oh, that's rough. But I guess that's kind of it's very much that sort of like ninjas in historical Japan. Where the shogun kept different sort of different houses of wives and that kind of thing. I don't fully understand the history of that time, but it was interesting and sort of compelling to check that out.
Cool.
There you go. But it's the one thing I will say about it is it did take a good while to figure out how to get it like sort of to the table. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can. It gives them. Yeah, it also gives the impression it would take quite a while to set up as well.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely a long setup time, but not too bad to play. We are running very short of time. Do we want to?
Yeah. Let's
prioritize the next ones.
Let's. We can. I'm sure we can get them done if we are more concise than we usually are known for.
All right, this one's for you, Chris.
Yes, another one that I've had to do some video game research on as well. Darkest Dungeon. So Darkest Dungeon is also, just like Frostpunk, a video game, which I have not played, but again, I've watched about an hour-long stream of it. So it's what would I even call it? It's the video game's a turn-based dungeon crawl. And this is essentially just a standard dungeon crawl game. And I read the rule book. I mean, I skimmed the rule book. I read the player turn and the enemy turn, and I read a few other bits and pieces. I got a feel for how the game plays moment to moment. It does seem to be kind of just a reasonably standard dungeon crawl. I struggled to find the thing that was meant to make it unique in any way. Which, as I said before, can just be a merge. It can be unique without having any one thing that's unique. It can be unique in the way it kind of merges things. Having then watching some gameplay of the video game and reskimming the rulebook, I think the quirks seem to be the thing that's meant to be kind of unique about it. Where your character might become a kleptomaniac, or he might become, I don't know, hypochondriac. I'm just making up. I don't know if those ones actually exist. And if they get 4 negative quirks, they die because they go mad, I think. But basically, it's essentially a trait system, right? It's trying to make itself sound a bit more unique than it actually is, because the moment to moment gameplay is literally, there's 4 actions available. You can interact with the room, you can move, you can use a skill, which is how you attack. There's no basic attack action. All the attacks are done via skills. It uses a kind of a grid system for movement, where each section, I think they're called areas. Each area of a dungeon tile can have a certain number of pieces on it, and it costs 1 movement to move from a section, from an area to another area. And it just looks, I'm sorry to say, it looks incredibly generic as dungeon crawlers go. I personally am also not a fan of the aesthetic, the art style of the video game, and therefore I'm not a fan of the aesthetic and the art style of the board game. It looks like it's just a very saturated market. It's yet another dungeon crawler with loads and loads of miniatures. and not massively, in my opinion, not massively interesting gameplay. Like I said, on your turn, you do two things. You can use a skill, which might be healing, might be attacking, might be, range attack, might be a buff, might be a debuff. You can move around, you can loot for treasure. The enemy turn is just basically they move and attack you. If they have multiple things that they can do, you roll a die to see which one they do. They're quite heavily. They're leaning quite heavily on the kind of on the RPG aspect, the character generation. Your characters, as I said, they get quirks, they get traits, they level up their skills. Your characters are also definitely going to die, and that's fine. That's just normal. You get a new character and you keep going. It's meant to be. I think that's how the video game works as well. It's very difficult. Your characters are not going to last for long. There is this stance system which I didn't fully understand for me in the rulebook. Basically, I'm assuming it's like high stance, low stance kind of thing, or aggressive or defensive, and then which stance you're in influences what skills are available to you. If you change your stance, it also forces the other members of the party to change their stance in some way as well. I didn't quite understand how that works or how it even makes thematic sense. But the stance system, I think, is also meant to be it's also meant to be the other thing that's making it a bit more different. But it doesn't do it for me. I will not be backing.
Apparently there's some high-level planning elements as well. I can see there's this Hamlet board. According to chat, when Adam Smith played it on Rolling Solo, it took him 40 minutes to actually get into a fight because he was doing all this sort of admin.
Oh yes, yeah. There's the what's it called, the homestead or the Hamlet. Yeah. So there's there's a whole preparation. There's a shop you can go to, I think, and you're preparing your the video game had that as well. It's like in Gloomhaven when you go to town between missions, although I think there's more to this one. In Gloomhaven you just go to the shop and you modify your deck, whereas I think there's a bit more going on here. The video game did look fun, Noted Deal. From the playthrough I saw, genuinely, it just aesthetically doesn't appeal to me, but the gameplay looks super cool. And I'm probably going to watch a bit more of that, of Christopher Odd's playthroughs of it.
I've never played the video game, and I haven't seen any gameplay of it. The art style is not something I'm a super big fan of. It can appeal to me, but generally speaking, like sort of relentlessly miserable, I find rather uncompelling because I don't think it's very deep.
It's bleak versus. I always use Dark Souls example of this. Bleak versus dreary is kind of how I always look at it. I want bleak. I'm a fan of. Dreary. I'm not a fan of. This artwork, in my opinion, is dreary.
Interesting. Well,
that's very, very much a personal thing.
I mean, the other thing that makes me sort of cautious is the number of campaigns Mythic are running at the moment, and the sort of the challenges I've heard people have had. So the only real experience I've got with Mythic actually is 2 campaigns, which is Joan of Arc and Super Fantasy Brawl. Super Fantasy Brawl I've played a few times now because my pledge just came through. I really like it. Super easy to get to the table. I can talk a bit more about that later, maybe. But the Joan of Arc was super difficult to get to the table. Super enjoyable when I had it demoed at cons. A day's work just to sort of get it out and get it onto the table. And I've heard people have had similar experiences with Reichbusters, where they were finding that there was a lot of iconography and not a lot of sort of useful player aids and all that kind of stuff. So, and people were sort of getting frustrated with Reichbusters before they had actually even got to play it, which is, I think, a real shame. And so I don't take that for what you will. Like I said, it's not some. I've had a similar experience with Joan of Arc, but that doesn't necessarily mean it'll be the case.
Yeah,
we had a demo of Reichbusters, the Alien expansion thing, at
Essen last year.
Yeah, at Essen last year, and that was curated by a demoer, and although I wasn't particularly taken with the gameplay, it was the game functioned, and we had a good time.
Yeah, we had a good time because it was curated, as you said, by Denmark, but I also wasn't particularly enamored with it. I think, look, if you like Darkest Dungeon, if you like the video game, this looks like a reasonably competent implementation of that video game. It just isn't for me. But if you're if like me, you think that dungeon crawlers at the moment are a dime a dozen, then I think you'd have to really like the IP to bother with this one.
Yeah, I've got a lot of dungeon crawlers, and people keep telling me I need to look at Hellboy the board game again and stuff like that. So I'm like, why? There's got to be something that really grabs me, and ain't got. Anyway, moving on. Right. The next one we struck from the list. What's gonna do?
Oh yes.
You want to talk this one?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I haven't. So Freedom 5, I don't have a lot to say about it because I didn't get to look at it as in depth as I did the last few I've talked about. I've played. I couldn't actually find anywhere on the page confirmation that this is a spin-off or a sequel to Sentinels of the Multiverse. It clearly is because I recognize the character I played when I played that game.
Well, I think they came out with a series of comic books based on Sentinels, which is the ass-backwards way to do it. And then this is based on the comics, right?
This is based on yes, because this is heavily exactly because every game of this is meant to be a comic storyline. Like you have a comic, you read a comic book intro, and I think there's an outro and an outro. Sorry, I'm trying to find the gap. There it is. It basically seems to be Sentinels Multiverse was a card game only, and this basically seems to have introduced. It's still heavily card driven, but they've also introduced, more traditional board game aspects with areas to go to clear out, and as it's got miniatures, of course, and you can pay lots and lots of money for pre-painted miniatures. I enjoyed Sentinels Multiverse when I played it. Once I think we played though we messed up the rules. We played it as if we had 5 players, only 2 of us, so it was insanely difficult and we died really quickly. I think this looks like a very good comic book game. If you like comic books, this really seems like it gets the feeling of playing of experiencing a comic book storyline in game form. As I said, they're using actual comic book panels. The artwork is very on point. You have to. I know that you have to. Your character has like a human secret identity as well as a superhero form, and certain actions are only available to you if you're in Peter Parker mode, so to speak, as opposed to Spider-Man mode. It looks like a really, really good comic book game in terms of how it's implemented its theme. I personally am not a huge comic book fan, and therefore it doesn't really appeal to me massively. It is eye-wateringly expensive for the painted miniatures. It's 200 quid, 150 quid for all in. I know that the gameplay is about involves it's basically action selection, as far as I'm aware. Where is that thing that I found? Because do you remember? It sounds Multiverse was purely card driven, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was all cards.
Whereas I think this one, I actually watched a video on this, and it obviously didn't stick with me. I think this has as I said, actions that are on your character sheet, and some are you can do in human mode, some in superhero mode, and some in both. Can you find the bit about the card play? Because I'm not finding it.
I don't see anything about that on here, but
maybe it was in the video I watched.
Quite possibly. Play now on Tabletopia.
Oh. But you're basically, it's a cooperative game where you're trying to defeat the mastermind, and I know there's bystanders, the henchmen are attacking areas, and bystanders are getting in trouble, and you need to kill the henchmen to save the bystanders, and saving the bystanders, actually, they might, you draw from a bystander deck, and they might be it might be a fireman who can then help you out with other stuff. So it's kind of, saving the bystanders will help you in the future as well, and you're ultimately, it's a bit like Reckoners in a way, thematically, right? You're ultimately trying to take down the big bad, whilst also managing the city and managing all the chaos that's going on. It's completely different in terms of gameplay from Reckoners. Obviously, Reckoners is dice heavy. This doesn't use dice, I don't believe.
I don't know. There seem to be some dice hanging around.
Oh, yeah, there are.
Don't know what they're for.
Oh, yeah, you're taking skill checks. That was it. You have to take skill checks with dice based on what you're trying to do. So your superheroes have mind, body, spirit, and tech, and how many dice they can roll in each thing to check skills.
Well,
but yeah, like I said, I don't have an enormous amount of insight into this because I kind of just glanced through it and was like, nah, it's not. Doesn't appeal to my idiosyncratic tastes.
Well, that's true. I mean, it's certainly not thematically something that grabs me particularly. Not that I don't like superheroes, but, you know, I'll tell you what it has got going for it that's got me intrigued is that it's being published by Arcane Wonders and Greater Than Games. I presume this is a cooperative game.
Yes.
So I actually was not a big fan of Sentinels of the Multiverse. I found typically it felt a bit too fiddly, and it also felt a bit prone to sort of alpha gaming if you knew the game really well.
Definitely fiddly.
But I do really like Spirit Island, which is a game it's by Nexus, but it's a branch of Greater Than Games. And that's a cooperative game that they made with card play. So it's got that. But also this is designed by the Sadler brothers, who've done Street Masters, which is a cooperative game I really enjoyed. They just delivered on their fantasy adventure game that I've been hearing good things about, although I haven't played it. Alter Quest.
Yes.
It's also designed by Richard Launius, who's an absolute veteran of the game design world. You know, he's got tons of designs to his name. Notably, a lot of the Arkham File games from Fantasy Flight Games and things like that. But he's been in the business for a very, very long time. So that sort of has colored me intrigued in a way that I was not previously intrigued. And I think that they're So I don't know. I'm now inclined to look into it in more detail because even if the theme doesn't really grab me, it's got a lot of pedigree behind it. So I shall be checking it out in further detail.
Okay.
All right. Next up, we've got honorable mention, really, because I wanted to look into this in more detail and I didn't have a chance, so I'm really just making you guys aware of it. It's Sakura Arms, which is Jewel Under Falling Cherry Blossoms. So this is a card play game. It's a simulation of a 2D fighter. So not unlike Knockdown, I suppose, that I've just covered on the channel, in that respect. But it's completely different in the sense that you're playing goddesses from Japan. And each goddess has a deck of cards, like powers, and they've got sort of actions and ultimate abilities on them. And you'll pick two goddesses, you'll put all their cards together, and then you'll kind of take 10 cards out of that you want to use. So there's a little bit of sort of setup in that sense, but it's like sort of a strategic choice, not game setup, right? It's the beginning of the game in a sense. And then you'll play out a sort of a 20-minute card play beat 'em up against your opponent. It's a head-to-head game. Apparently it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to play. I think it's really only 2-player, but I'm not 100% on that. But it's level 99 games, which is, of course, are famous for many, many things, but the one that springs to my mind, which I have on my shelf over there, is Indines, the Indines series. So the one I've got is Devastation of Indines, but I think there's like many more than that, and that's also a fighting game, so it's not something that I'm familiar with, although this isn't their own IP, it's a Japanese game that they're bringing to us. I believe it's been going for a long, long time in Japan, and is very popular over there. So I'm super intrigued about this. I really like the artwork, and I like the idea that it's quick. I'm super interested in it, and I'd like to look at it in more detail.
Nice. Definitely will check that and check that out, and check out Freedom 5 as well. Okay.
Right. This is the last one on our list,
which is also sort of an honorable mention as well.
Indeed.
because it's technically for a Kickstarter for an expansion for a game we haven't played.
Yeah. So Grand Austria Hotel.
There's limited insight here. Sorry.
No, that's this is a classic. Oh, who designed this one, Chris? I've forgotten.
Oh, hang on. I will find out for you.
Not if I find out first.
It was Virginio Gigil and Simone Luciani.
So Simone Luciani, we know from Sulkin and
Voyage to
Marco
Marco
Polo,
Polo, and
and
they both worked on
Khan.
Lorenzo the Magnificent together.
And Barrage as well, if you played that recently.
Barrage. They've worked together before. Art by Clemens Franz, who's done. He's worked on Agricola, Farmers of the Moor, Caverna, Isle of Skye, Clans of
He's the Uwe
Caledonia.
Rosenberg guy.
Yeah, he's that art guy. I mean, Grand Austria Hotel is it's in the top 100 games of Board Game Geek apparently. Yes, it's number 97, so barely, but it is true what they're saying. It's a dice drafting game, where the more dice that end up in like a section, the more valuable that section is. So I think you got to make decisions basically about, I really, really need this, but if I take it this turn, I really need this now, but if I take it this turn, I'm not really getting very much of it. This strudel isn't very plentiful, but right now I don't need strudel now, but if I take it, I'm getting loads, and it definitely sounds like a very successful, interesting Euro game. Which did really, really well, and this is a good opportunity to get it if you didn't manage to in the first place. The expansion itself, there's lots of modules, basically, the expansions. It's very modular. The one that I looked into was the waltzing one, where basically instead, when you satisfy a guest's need, instead of, you're trying to be the best hotelier, that's the theme of the game, and once you satisfy the guest's needs, instead of them going to their room and scoring you points, you can also send them to a ballroom to dance, and that gets you other benefits essentially, in lieu of sending them to their room. As someone who hasn't played the game, that doesn't sound like a particularly exciting innovation. Maybe it is. I was slightly surprised by how expensive the game was. Because what was it for the game and the expansion is £90, which I was a little surprised by. Because Grand Austria Hotel is like, I've seen the box. It doesn't look like it looks like a £40 game.
Well, but I think there's a tendency for these sort of Euros with lots and lots of components and things to be deceptively expensive, you know.
Yeah, sure.
I'm just thinking about how much I paid for like Crystal Palace and things like that, and I think it's usually about 50, 60 quid. You know, like one of the big box Uves is like 70, right? Like that's what you pay.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I skipped this the first time round, and I'm probably going to skip it again. It doesn't really. I mean, I like unusual themes. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know. This just never really. I watched the Rado runs through of the original of the base game, like whatever it was, 3-4 years ago, maybe a bit longer, and I was like, yeah, it looks alright. I just didn't pick it up, and I probably won't in the future.
Well, I'm a big fan of basically all the games I've played that Simone Luciani's worked on, and I've been enjoying Barrage recently, so I'm definitely going to look at this in more detail.
Okay, cool.
That's my takeaway. Do I need more of this kind of thing? I've definitely not even scratched the surface of Barrage.
Yeah, that's the thing, right?
But also, you know, maybe. Anyway, I think that's that really. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said,
Honorable
opportunity to
mention.
get it.
It's been out of print for a long, long time. And it's the kind of thing that's, I say out of print, hard to come by, right? It's the kind of thing that occasionally pops up where with people saying, bought this, tried it, wasn't for me, you know. But generally speaking, yeah, it's like people tend to, it doesn't seem eminently available in the secondhand market either, which leads me to believe that the people who like this kind of thing really like this one.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be the end of our rundown for this session, guys. Sorry we had to rush a bit at the end, and then everything we got the technical issues. I did want to talk a bit more about some of the stuff that arrived, but we'll have to save that for the next one, which we will do as soon as we can. But I'll just say I hope that's given you guys some insight into the mind of, or some insights into what's on Kickstarter and whether or not you'll be interested in it. And we'll come back again before too long to talk about what we backed and maybe some stuff that's arrived. We'll see if we can make it a bit of a longer stream next time. But just to say that if you guys have enjoyed this stream and you want to be notified about when these things come out, please do make sure you set your notifications on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, throw a like down on the video below if you found this stuff useful, tell a friend about it, and if you'd like to support this kind of independent content, please do check out our Patreon page as well, because it's goes a long way to helping keep this stuff going. And thank you all so much for watching and coming on this live stream journey with us. We've had a good time, and we'll see you all in the next series of videos. There's a lot coming this weekend. I haven't posted any of them, but there'll probably be 4 streams this weekend. So keep an eye on the channel.
It's going to be a busy week.
So looking forward to seeing you all there. And happy Halloween, everybody. But bye for now.
Bye, guys. Don't back all the Kickstarters.
Don't back them all. Try to pick one that you liked in this stream.
Maybe 2 or 3.
Maybe
Bye.
2. I'll back more than 2, so you don't have
You will.
to.